kind of an animal are you?
I'm a man, not a freak like my brother.
Get out!
They'll just come after us, 4 of them. We'd be all alone on the prairie.
We've got an hour.
Want to hear one of my ideas for a perfect murder? You want to hear the busted light socket in the bathroom or the carbon monoxide in the garage?
You'll feel better when you get under the covers.
In the 1940s, there were 2 Russian-born men whose quest for awakening genius in performing artists proved to be the unseen force behind many Hollywood legends. Michael Chejov, who died in 1955, and his good friend George Stanoff. Why is the work of these 2 men virtually unheard of?
Why do we study? Why can't we get up and act like children do? The naivete of the child, the belief in everything around us, we lose when we grow up.
Oh, do you feel the breeze from the subway? Isn't it delicious?
Marilyn Monroe admired Chejov very much. It was a very strange thing about this girl. She had very good taste. She admired great people. So she was a student of Michael Chejov while he was alive.
These master teachers, Chejov, Stanoff, and Stanoff's talented wife Elsa Schreiber, have inspired dozens of actors and directors in over 100 Academy Award-winning or nominated films that encompass every style and genre of American cinema in the last half-century.
I hope they didn't make a mistake in giving this to me, because I'm not going to give it back for anything in the world.
Yul Brynner, Ingrid Bergman, Leslie Caron, Gary Cooper, Tyrone Power, Rex Harrison, Sterling Hayden, Jennifer Jones, Gene Kelly, Marilyn Monroe, Patricia Neal, Paul Newman, Jack Palance, Anthony Quinn, Robert Stack, Beatrice Straight, Robert Taylor, and yours truly, Gregory Peck, are only a few of the artists to be guided by these extraordinary teachers.
Our profession is based on imagination, concentration, and radiation. We may 150 people died in an aeroplane accident. We read it, we sip some coffee, we turn the page, and we go on. As artists, you have to visualize and experience everything that you see in your imagination. Fortunately, we can develop imagination through exercise. We can stretch it. We can make it more interesting. We can make it unique. Imagination is a whole world in which you as artists live.
You say he is in the Guards. His name?
Baron Christian de Neuvillette.
In many cases, the public wants to think that the actor has done everything all on their own. In other words, that they come up with all of this and they have a director who basically moves them from place to place, which of course is, is not usually true or is not really supposed to be true. So actors, for the most part, don't talk about who coached them on a particular role.
Well, George is a part of my life, a very important one. He caught me at a time when I was most insecure and tried to make me into a good enough actor to get the Academy nomination.
I'm gonna put a bullet in your belly.
For what, Kyle?
My best friend. My lifelong pal. What a laugh.
I think at that time what was most important for me was the respect for something that was a profession. Not just the art of being pretty and knowing how to smile and being seductive and taking your clothes off and that sort of thing.
I had the pleasure of of knowing this fabulous man, Michael Chejov. He was just brilliant. Besides the great talent that he had great love in his heart, and you were never alone when you were acting. He was with you all the time, and it was just a delightful experience.
A man like that sounds no better than a heel.
I was married to Ed for 6 years. The only thing he was ever good for was to scratch my back where I couldn't reach it.
You still got that itch?
Off and on.
Well, let me know when it gets to bothering you.
Hard. It was a small part, you know, and I didn't think I would win, but I was called in the middle of the night and told I'd won because I was a little pregnant at the time, and it was impossible for me to go. I think I had a baby a week later.
I'm a gentleman, act like a gentleman. I take what I want. And don't you or anybody else try to stop me.
I must say, I had never heard of Michael Chejov. I was very ignorant at that time. I'm still ignorant, but not that ignorant. And he said, a great actor is coming to the house, and we're going to have a party for him, and all the Russians, Shalyapin and Rachmaninov, and everybody's going to be here because he's really the Russians' hero. And Mr. Chejov is going to be here. So I was invited. I was just a kid, and I was invited to be there. And I must say, I expected a 6'7" man to walk in, very imposing, and with his great Russian voice. Instead, Mr. Chejov was a little tiny man, very frail, and he talked like that. He said, yes, go, hello, how are you? Yes, I know you, I've seen you on the beaches.
In the turbulent environment of Tsarist Russia, Michael Chejov was born in St. Petersburg in 1891. After several years of intensive theatrical training, Chejov was introduced to Stanislavski, the preeminent actor and teacher of his time in Russia, and the co-founder of the renowned Moscow Art Theater. He invited Chejov to audition. Stanislavski wrote simply of Chejov, "He is a genius." From 1912 to 1917, Michael Chejov rose to prominence, first in small roles at the Moscow Art Theater, and then in leading roles. Audiences fell under the spell of Chekhov's imaginative performances. Chekhov's innovative approach to acting concentrated on the ego of the character rather than on the ego of the actor. One of the people who was transfixed by Chekhov's electrifying performances was the young George Shtanov.
Beginning in 1917, the immense power changes brought about by the Russian Revolution affected both Chejov and Shtanov in profound personal and professional ways. By 1927, Chejov, the Moscow Art Theater's most brilliant star, having suffered from alcoholism, nervous breakdowns, family deaths, and divorce, was marked for arrest and liquidation by the repressive Soviet regime.
He had a problem with drinking at one time. He had mental problems, which I didn't see later on, except he was very, as I mentioned, anxious about the police and about any bureaucratic pressures because of his experience in Russia.
Great artists give you something of their soul, yet the great artists have the courage to enter the dark attic, throw the light in the corner, get rid of the cobwebs, show it to you, reveal it, I think, which is what the best acting is, and then close the door on it again. That's the difference between the great actors and the not so great.
Did you know about his production of Hamlet in Russia? Do you know that it was one of the reasons that he left Russia? Chejov had described this to me. In his production of Hamlet, there was no ghost. That the ghost was a image formed in Hamlet's mind by his trance. And when the ghost appeared, he would be lit from below, the stage would go dark, and he would go into a trance. The Soviets did not approve of this. They considered it occult, mystic, which it is, and they closed that production of Hamlet.
He escaped to Berlin in 1928, becoming a popular theater and film star in Germany.
My favorite.
Chejov met George Stanoff for the first time in Berlin, and they developed a close personal friendship that lasted until Chekhov's death in 1955.
Until the age of 10, I wanted to be like Papa, a doctor. Then, at that age, they sent me one day to a theater, and I saw a play. I came home and I declared, I'm not going to be a doctor, I'm going to be an actor. So I started to go from various studios, acting schools, and so on. And I was a young rebel. I dared to disagree with a few points in Stanislavski's teaching. Chejov arrived in Berlin. I called him up and I asked him for an interview. Here, for the first time, I met him personally. And the first question was, Mr. Chejov, what do you think of Stanislavski's teaching about emotional memory? And he said, I don't use it. I never liked it. I was enchanted.
Together with a colleague, George made this film, No Man's Land, and that film was extremely important, but it also endangered George's life.
When Hitler came to power, the Nazis believed that this film really antagonized their nationalism, so they destroyed all of the negatives, all of the prints they could have their hands on.
He was tipped off that the Nazis were about to arrest him, and Gaston Batti, this very great French theater person, very important in Paris, Georges called him and said, I must get out of Germany today. And word was passed on that he could just jump on any train and come over, which he did. And this is how he avoided the Gestapo.
The first time I ever heard about Michael Chejov was in 1935 when I was doing Noah with Pierre Vernet, and Chejov came to New York to do the Inspector General in Russian. And he was the talk of New York, particularly the group theater people whom I'd meet on the street, and they said, this is the guy you have got to see.
Michael Chejov was recognized not only by the general public, but the actors' studio people. As a matter of fact, they tried to lure him away when you were getting him to go to Dartington Hall.
I had a marvelous mother who was way ahead of her time, and my father had passed away, but she went to England and met a charming young Englishman, and they fell madly in love, right? But she had already had 3 kids, and we 3 kids were with an old bitch nurse in New York, right? Anyway, then she decided that she was going to marry him, and so we were asked to go over to England. And they found this marvelous place down in Devonshire, 14th century, some of it, and a terrific old barn that they turned into a theater.
Well, my mother was the daughter of William C. Whitney, and when she married my father in 1925, they decided to buy a property in Devon where they could promote the arts and education and research in a rural setting. So, having seen him perform, I think, in Philadelphia, Beatrice was able to wire him to come to England, and this is where he came and established the school here in the buildings beyond the courtyard behind me. And they opened to students in October 1936.
Chejov appointed me co-director of the Chejov Theater Organization, and the plan was to develop it like a kind of Salzburg festival.
Together they directed many acclaimed classic plays under the auspices of the Chejov Theater Studio, both at Dartington Hall in England and later in Ridgefield, Connecticut in the United States.
A wonderful woman called Tamara Dekhanova was scouting for talent for Michael Chejov. So she came to the dressing room and she said, "You are Chejov material." Well, I thought that meant that I was going to be sent to Siberia. I don't know what she meant. And I was fascinated. He will tell you, she said, how to move into space and how to radiate. And I didn't know what she was talking about.
Then Zelensky came up and said, "You work in an orphanage, you see? Children in the night. Fire. You must get them out."
Improvisation.
Improvisation. And I thought, and I said a short prayer to anybody up there. And thought, hush, it's a game. Let's go. So the children caught not the fear, but the hope. So I got in.
Stanislavski originally created what is called the method for one purpose and one purpose only, which is to find a consistency in performance. Why was I moved to tears one night and not another night? Same actor, same circumstances, same situation, same actions. Why was I not moved? And he said, wouldn't it be great to be able to find a way to prepare that the performance would be more consistent? Stanislavski said Chejov was the next step in the method. He really was the next step in the method, which is to free oneself of oneself. After one has looked within oneself, to discard oneself and allow the character to have life.
It's a garden that gives the trees space in the true Chejov fashion, because they used to send the students out and he would tell them to choose a tree and then find the gesture that the tree was making and put it into human form. I remember that exercise my mother talked about.
Sometimes we co-directed the same play and we used our approaches, atmosphere, psychological gesture, and sometimes I directed one act, he directed another act, but there was never any clash.
There was a flippancy about us, a giggliness which can be utterly destructive. And suddenly, this little man became a giant. And with tears in his eyes, he said, "Children, out there is a world. Unless you are serious artists and actors, they will kill you." And he was right.
He found the British students comparatively inhibited to those he had in Russia. And so he developed his exercises to help free them, liberate them as people, as much as for acting purposes. And so I always feel that his exercises for freeing actors really would be an enormous help in our educational system for everyone to experience how to liberate your feelings particularly and gather your confidence in expressing yourself. All these exercises that he developed for actors really apply to all human beings. And then by 1938, Chejov was getting nervous about the coming war. He persuaded Beatrice and my mother to finance their removal to America, to Connecticut, where they set up the studio.
I went on the boat with Chejov on the return to America to start the school there. He was very nervous because they were shooting people from the Soviet, that distinguished ones. A general was shot. You remember that Mary Lou was with us. And he was afraid to walk his evil dog. He had a dog called Osik, who bit everyone. And he said, Hurley, would you walk my darling, my boy, Osik? So I took this, I love dogs, but I mean, he was always at my heels, walked him, he wouldn't get out of his stateroom.
So we had a center in Richfield, Connecticut, and another center in New York. And this is where we had our school for acting, and this is where we developed the productions which we showed on Broadway. This great actor, really a genius as an actor, was very courageous, limitless in his courage on stage. But in private life, he was very shy, and he could talk about art, literature, and so on, but small talk was impossible for him. He just couldn't conduct such a conversation.
We were working on the lower depths, and as they were rehearsing, Chejov said to Alfred, "You must be taller." This class of wiseacres, young talent, said, "Yeah, of course." And he said, "I'll try." And they began the scene again, and Michael said, "No, Alfred, you must be taller." Well, this went on with all of us looking on, sneering, saying, "What the hell is he talking about?" And finally, Alfred said, "How can I be taller?" And Chejov said, "I will show you." And he stood next to Kurt Conway. And Kurt Conway was at least his height, if not taller. And before our eyes, and I witnessed this, Chejov became taller than Kurt Conway.
People asked him how he did what he did. They were like, "How do you think that way? How do you do that?" And he'd work out an exercise or a method by which you could open doors and find your own way.
With that feeling of blood. Tears coming everywhere. No place is safe. Above you, behind you, nowhere is safe.
What I thought was fascinating was the chart that was drawn in the second edition of the book. In the chart for inspired acting, you're really talking about Chejov breaking down the character's human condition into a series of sections. His techniques, which include psychological gesture, atmosphere, radiation, centers, all of these things take you to this whole. This circle being the sum of the character.
Director Gregory Ratoff persuaded Chejov to move to Hollywood, where he could act in films and teach. George Stanoff and his wife Elsa Schreiber also decided to move to Los Angeles. Rachmaninoff, the greatly celebrated composer, knew and loved Chejov from his acclaimed Moscow Art Theater days and insisted that MGM sign Chejov.
The struggle against his condition agitates him at times, but there is no danger in him.
This is what I found in his hand last night.
He didn't know he had that. Alex, you mustn't think that. He didn't try to do anything.
Do
to
not
you. He couldn't.
complete the sentence with the usual female contradictions. You grant me I know more than you. But on the other hand, you know more than me. We must talk back.
Alex, what are you going to do?
Michael
Something
Chejov did not know motion pictures. As a matter of fact, he had a great deal of trouble. He was doing a picture with Ingrid Bergman, and he was so nervous. But he was supposed to take out some matches. And say, "Oh, yes." And
Dr. Peterson, the promising psychoanalyst, is now all of a sudden a schoolgirl in love with an actor, nothing else.
But he was so nervous and so deep in his character, they looked for a place, and he couldn't find a place for a match, so he put the match in his pocket. So then he would take out another and lie in. And then the director said, "Cut," after the fifth. He says, "Michael, it's very simple. Give him another match folder, and then be sure that it lights. See? Just you do this, and then it lights. To make a long story short, they said did 26 takes. And the matches kept breaking.
Doctor told me not to smoke in the morning, but I'm too excited.
And it was such a fantastic bit of realism that all the crew broke out in applause.
Michael Chejov came in, was introduced to us all, and he stood up. I'll try to stand up. He stood like this, and he looked around the room. And we were introduced naturally, and he acknowledged each of us. And he said, "You are Khlastakov," pointing at me. Well, the rehearsals went very well. They were extremely difficult in that Michael Chejov used to get ill and be away, or go to do a film job or something, and we rehearsed this play over 6 months. Shtanov was on the scene the whole time and was introduced as his associate. And from time to time, when Michael couldn't be around for rehearsals, Shtanov would take the rehearsals. Having been brought up in the Stanislavski approach to acting, which was internal, all internal. You examined yourself, you examined your past, you examined the internal parts of the underpinnings of the character as written by whoever, and from that you built your character. Michael Chejov worked a great deal externally, finding the look, the walk, the body posture, and so on. He also had an interior approach, but he melded the two.
An example of it, I was self-conscious about the fact that he cast me as the ingenue in the play, was only supposed to be about 17, but I was already the mother of Bo, who was about 5 at the time, and I had to play this adolescent girl. He came up to me and he said, "Dorothy, what's bothering you?" And I said, "I just don't know what to do with my body. I don't remember the body of an adolescent girl." And he pulled me over and whispered to me, he says, "Darling, just remember that you have to pee all the time." And it was amazing, psychological gesture, because if that's all you're thinking about, I can't pee, your legs go together and all your movements are like that, and it even affects your speech, everything.
I do not believe that the communist has ever at any time been able to use the motion picture screen as a sounding board for his philosophy or ideology.
I am one of the participants in the blacklist. Well, that had an enormous effect on the culture, in acting and thinking and the whole thing. The fact is, because of the blacklist, a certain change took place in the mentality of everybody involved in making movies.
Not even the darlings of dreamland escaped the epidemic of charge and countercharge. Gary Cooper was a friendly witness.
Can you tell us some of the statements or that you may have heard at these gatherings that you believe are communistic?
I've heard people mention that, well, perhaps this would be a more efficient government without a Congress.
Chejov mesmerized an audience, and politically that was unacceptable.
Here's a Russian. He's been chased out of Russia, then Paris, and then England, Latvia, with that civil war's going on, and then he ends in America. Okay, land of freedom, land of opportunity, and then suddenly, communist sympathizer, and the accusation of being associated with communists. That the one thing he wanted to do was escape. And here he is in the actor's lab, the dream, another dream, and yet again another dream is destroyed.
Friends such as Beatrice Straight and John Barry were blacklisted in Hollywood. And after that, Chejov made only a few more films.
Then one day he announced that he was going to open a school here. And some wonderful, I think the best actors in Hollywood used to come there. I mean, there wasn't an actor that was worth anything that didn't come there.
I had just come to Hollywood from the stage. I did Lee and Hillman's Another Part of the Forest, and I got all kinds of offers, so I came to work in films, and I signed with Warner Brothers. And I was going to a beauty shop, And the man who did my hair, he tells me, he said, I work with George Stanoff. And he said, would you please be so kind as to go and do a scene?
I got up, I walked up to her and said, who are you? I didn't know anything because I was busy with my work day and night, and I didn't know anything what was going on Broadway. Who are you? Do you know that you are an exceptionally great talent?
Well, George happened to think I was very talented.
But she called me a few days later and said, I would like to work with you on my next part with Gary Cooper.
I got the lead in The Fountainhead. And so I decided I would love to work with George on it because George was obviously a great coach. And we began working. We began there and it continued for all the years I was in Hollywood. Well, of course, Gary Cooper was my favorite actor. He, he had a lot of talent. He really did. And a lot of charm. But he was a very good actor. He was, according to George, I think George thought he was lazy and didn't do the work he should do.
Chejov knew Gary Cooper very well. Gary Cooper would sit there with his long legs and stretching out, and Chejov had a very funny exercise that you did for energy.
To the sky.
You stood up, and then you imagined that there were tubes running from your feet down to the middle of the earth. You would send these tubes down, down, down to the middle of the earth. You bring it up, and now it's a mile down, now it's a half a mile down, now it's at your feet. And now you stretch out your arms, you are full of gold, and you must now send it out to the world. So it was funny to see Gary Cooper trying it.
I got over 100 grand stuck in this house. You can't even open a bottle of beer.
One day we were making a picture, Blowing Wild in Mexico. He, Barbara Stanwyck, and I. And Gary Cooper was going through a strange psychological period. And he had a long speech to Barbara Stanwyck, who was married to me, but really was in love with Gary Cooper. Mm-hmm. All the teachings that he had learned from Chejov weren't working. But they did 50 takes and couldn't get through the play. Couldn't get through. Suddenly the director said, let's break for lunch. Then I saw him go behind a tree where there were no people around. And suddenly I saw him doing, you send it down to the bottom and it comes up, oh, and you give it. So then they came back, and they went in to take. He did it in one take.
You've tried to wipe me off before. You never could.
Maybe I never tried hard enough.
Why do you always fight me, Jeff?
You have a husband.
You could have been my husband. Why aren't you?
Because you're no good, Marina.
From that picture, he went and did the Western High Noon, and he won the Academy Award.
My wife, Elsa Schreiber, She was a very exceptionally talented coach. She worked with many prominent actors, like, for instance, Gregory Peck. Gregory said at the memorial when my wife died, he said that he worked all his parts with Elsa.
I am confident that you gentlemen will review without passion the evidence that you have heard, come to a decision, and restore this man to his family.
Elsa was, they were a great couple. And of course, George and Chejov had their own theater, and they were quite well known. But frankly, Elsa had the so-called class act upstairs. And we were down in the basement with the cheap seats. We meaning the actors. She had all the big ones up there. Rex Harrison and all the big stars. Gregory Peck wouldn't make a move without her. In fact, he took her to England with him. And they were all the big stars, and those of us who weren't quite so big were down below. Wonderful actors like Pat Neal, you know, and Leslie Caron.
They were terribly courteous. There was always a cup of coffee and a few biscuits, which was very often welcome, because I would be coming straight from a dancing class or something like that and was exhausted and needed a little pickup.
But they were great together. They worked quite differently. George was I was much closer to his way of working, the Chekovian way, as opposed to, I don't know too much about Stanislavski or Actors Studio, but I do know some of the stuff that they use doesn't work for me, like sense memory. You got a scene where something terrible happens and you remember when your cat was run over. I don't know, I would much rather use the imagery that Chejov talks about, and you let him experience it. Otherwise it becomes a highly subjective personal emotion as opposed to his emotion. Like in Written on the Wind, I saw him function, I saw his walk. I saw it long before I ever tried to do it myself, so I never was self-conscious because I was playing. He was doing all of these things.
Lousy white trash!
How do you discover that you have within your beaming face and your completely secure life the ability to play real torment? Written on the Wind is a classic example. And George was fantastic in this because I was dealing with 5 different stages of drunkenness. And as I said, we wound up with a different key for each one. Pagliacci for one in a very remote, delicate way, one where there's a sadistic end to it. The one that drove me the craziest was Delirium Tremens. And he said, all right, close your eyes. Imagine you're in a coffin. You are not dead. They think you're dead, but you're not. You cannot move. They're about to push the lid on top of you. And your psychological gesture is, let me out of here. It worked.
I'll be down at the river, waiting.
This is when acting is fun, when you can do it in concert with somebody that gives you the key and you together do it, and he's very special.
I did my first film, An American in Paris, without any training at all, which was extremely uncomfortable. Made me very, very nervous. I didn't know what I was doing professionally. And at the end of the film, Betsy Blair, who was a pupil of George Danoff, told me, Leslie, you seem to love acting. I think perhaps you would enjoy taking classes and learning the trade. And I met George, and I worked with him for at least 4 years.
Well, you poor darling, you...
First of all, it gave me a technique. Also, there's more to acting than just saying the words. Sometimes the walk in a part that you play is extremely important. You can really convey the character you're playing. And if you want me to demonstrate about Lily, well, we worked a lot on Lily with George, and we came to the conclusion that she was a sort of half-wit, and so she wasn't standing up straight like somebody who's ready to face the world. She was it was there and in the knees, and she never quite walked straight, and so she was just lost. She just couldn't put things together very clearly.
Don't understand the Parisian.
Now you would like to know about Gigi. Gigi would be somebody who'd have a spring in her walk, you know. She was free and she walked like that, and the chin was up, a little bit defiant. You see, and you work on those things and you already nearly have your character.
The biggest thing that Chejov gave us is the idea that you start with the character first, you invoke the character, you coerce the character, you seduce the character to you. You don't go, I'm going to play the role this way, you know, because then you're stuck in stereotype, you're stuck in result. Chekhov's particular emphasis was on coercing. Remember the exercise we used to do of being in the garden? Seeing the character in the garden, he beckons to you, you talk to him, what's he dressed like, what's he wearing, all that stuff.
Yeah, Clint had come to Los Angeles to take a business course at Los Angeles City College, but you know, he fell into bad company with actors and the like, and got interested. And so really his first contact with formal acting instruction was auditing some classes at Steinhoff and attending lectures by Chejov himself. And that school of acting appealed to him.
I think star quality is something that you're born with, something that somebody is born with. And there are different kinds of star qualities, but to me it comes down to radiation, what you were talking about, the radiating. And certain people radiate very specific things. You were talking about Clint Eastwood. To me, Clint Eastwood isn't a great actor, but he's a great radiator, you know. He is this thing. He has this presence and this power.
Take a drink, kid.
It comes from nowhere. You can't explain it. Brad Pitt, you know, when I worked with him in River Runs Through It, we drove back together from Montana, and I hadn't seen Thelma and Louise, and he said, I really want you to see my work and tell me what you think. And so he went out to a bar, and I went to the movie theater.
Well, I know I'm supposed to be gone and all, but you know, this is crazy. I'm gonna get out of your hair, all right?
Well, wait. Where are you going?
I don't know. You know, nowhere.
I came out and he said, so what did you think? Did you like my acting? I said, you know what? I don't have a comment on your acting. It has nothing to do with it. You don't have to do anything. You have a magic and a beauty that I don't think is going to be matched by other actors of our generation. You have a gift. And that's what star quality is. That's what Marilyn Monroe had. It's unexplainable. Really it's untouchable. It's part of the infinite.
If I were your wife, I'd be very jealous of you. I'd be very, very jealous. I think you're just delicate.
Thank you.
Aren't you going to answer?
Answer what?
Star quality is radiation at its maximum. Some people think you either are born with it or you're not. Well, I would agree with that, but only to the extent that some people are born with it, but it's blocked. And what Michael Chejov did was he found a system through which you could unblock the natural star quality that is in you.
But I'll tell you, when Yul Brynner came on stage, radiation, you know, who's that?
You are a barbarian.
Down, down, down! Am I king or am I not king? Am I to be cuckolded in my own palace?
Am I to take orders from English school teacher?
No, not orders.
I am king as I was born to be.
Michael Chejov said to Yul Brynner, "Thank you for showing me that my method works."
Be okay. That's great. So you know what? You take your time doing that, okay?
Chekhov loved improvisations. We all, every Friday, had to do improvisations.
Do you hear something? Shh, shut up, shut up. Somebody's screaming. No, it's not screaming. It's something. It's the dog barking.
So, Stacy, you are a radiating character, and Brandon, you are flying. So let's see.
All right. You gonna play the games? We'll play games. Count of 3. We'll do it at the same time. Okay? We'll play your little game. Okay? You wanna do that?
Yeah.
You wanna play that?
Yeah.
Okay. You
Fine,
ready?
fine.
I'll count it. 1.
Wait. Okay, go.
1, 2, 3. I'm gay.
pregnant.
If you are talking to witty people, comic characters, if you think that the center is somewhere there like a butterfly, it just brings something funny to your, the words are dancing there, the thoughts are dancing in front of you. That's one. Then you're playing an intellectual, and the center is going to be the forehead, and the forehead is going to be heavy with thoughts, with a lot of learning, with a lot of experience. And that's going to be another character. Then you have seductive women, and no doubt the center is on the bosom. And they walk around like that, and that's where the center is.
The center can be any place you want. I mean, an aggressive character would probably be thinking with his right arm. And maybe Othello is a man who thinks, I have a sword and I can kill anybody, and I am the captain and you must obey me. Now, that makes you, now, I'm not acting, I just feel a form. I just feel a form here. Or it could be in your stomach. What do you mean? I am the captain. I am the captain of the ship, and I command here. Well, now that's a man that's afraid of his power to command. He won't take the power.
I'm in love with her.
Get out! Go anywhere you want. Go to a hotel. Go live with her, but don't come back. Because after 25 years of building a home and raising a family and all the senseless pain that we have inflicted on each other, because this isn't a convention weekend with your secretary, is it? Or some broad that you picked up after 3 belts of booze. This is your great winter romance, isn't it? Your last roar of passion before you settle into your emeritus years. Is that what's left for me? Is that my share? She gets the winter passion and I get the dotage. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to sit home knitting and purling while you slink back like some penitent drunk? I'm your wife, damn it! And if you can't work up a winter passion for me, the least I require is respect and allegiance.
But the centers were wonderful, and atmosphere I loved too. And they were giving the Academy Awards, and everybody was in a big theater in LA. And they mentioned my name. I couldn't believe it. I had to be pushed out of my chair. I did. I thought they'd made a mistake.
While my mother and sister were hiding in the dark and kind of watching me, hoping I was going to be in the movie business, I turned around and imagined I saw my director making fun of my newly acquired psychological gesture from Michael Chejov.
Psychological gesture deals with, in the early days they had the school of Delsartian acting, where this was grief, this was anger, this was heroic, while a psychological gesture is Stallone at the Rocky. So that creates in itself an emotion. This is an actual outward manifestation of emotion.
When I asked Chejov what was his psychological gesture for Hamlet, he told me it was Gothic. He told me that Hamlet was a student. He told me the world was changing. And he said Gothic and it is going towards heaven. And he made this gesture. And it's extraordinary as a concept of construction. I said to him, I didn't think that was the gesture for Hamlet, that my gesture for Hamlet was a piercing moment when one tries to understand the world.
Chejov and Stanov knew that their ideas about acting and spirituality were way ahead of their time. They believed in the imagination and in bringing out the best in the actors who studied with them, as opposed to many of their contemporaries who believed in breaking down the actor's ego and personality.
I had a great deal of misgivings about Lee Strasberg's when I went to watch one of the classes, because I thought he was totally unraveling a girl who, after that, would need a month in a hospital to get her confidence back again.
It was about tearing people down psychologically and stripping you bare. And for me, that's the antithesis of my job as an actor. My job is to understand my masks, to know my reactions. And we have our masks because we have life experience, and our life experience teaches us which masks to put on. None of us are perfect and bare and can be this vulnerable creature all the time. And it's appropriate to have masks. If I don't trust somebody, I put on a certain kind of mask. If I want to seduce somebody, I put on a certain kind of mask. That doesn't mean I'm faking, but we all have our masks that we use. The best thing I can do as an actor is to learn what my masks are, when I use them, how I use them, to bring that into my art, because that is life. Our masks are our mystery.
Chejov believed we seldom express ourselves directly, almost always indirectly. People in everyday life wear a mask to hide feelings and purposes from other people. Actors also create masks. The mask of the character is the sum total of the actor's preparation for the role.
After the play was over, I got pregnant, and we had a child die in the crib when he was 3 months old. Well, it was a terrible thing. And I was in terrible depression. I wouldn't go out of the house. And one night Bud said he was going to the group. I had started being in the group, not that I planned on being an actress, because I wanted to be around Chejov. So I said, all right, but I'm not going to participate in any way, because I was so afraid if anyone spoke to me, I'd start to cry. So that we always started out sitting in a semicircle in chairs, and Chejov would have you get up one by one with a feeling of ease, which is one of his precepts. And Bud told him that I didn't want to participate in any way. And my heart started beating more and more as he got closer to where I was sitting. And then he stood there and he said, Dorothy, you come to my arms.
I think Chejov is very relevant today. Any method that helps an actor find his art and find ways to express himself is incredibly valid. And obviously there are a lot of people, I would say more than any other technique, that draw from that technique.
There are now workshops being given all over the world. There is an international organization called the IMCA, the International Michael Chejov Association. And this whole interest in a kind of energy, spirituality, things that one can talk about today much more easily than you could in the 50s. There weren't that many people who understood or were open to it. Now they are. And those actors who are really interested in how can I radiate, how can I move energy that it can touch my audience in a more profound way, are now finding their way to Michael Chekhov's work.
Michael Chejov, the great secret. The great acting secret. But isn't that the way he wanted it?
Michael Chejov believed with his whole being that every talented actor is possessed by a deeply rooted desire for transformation.
Oh, the smell of art, the lovely smell of art. Only you have preserved it in the world, Lassel.
Experts in the expanding human potential movement call this event being in the zone or in the flow.
What has she got in her hand? A paper flower.
It is an altered state of mind that allows the once average human to achieve miraculous results with comparative ease and grace.
Why don't you shut up? If you have to slog it, don't do it over me. You mourn over a pair of old shoes. You cry when you read Uncle Tom's Cabin. You plead with Malay over the nobility of toil. For weeks I've been listening to that slop, and I'm tired of it.
Every time we looked around, there he was, that hairy hound from Budapest. Never leaving us alone, never have I ever known a rudapest. Finally, I decided it was foolish not to let him have his chance with her. So I stepped aside and let him dance with her. And 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3.
But it's not right.
Oh, yes, it is. You were doing beautifully, Your Majesty.
No. Not the way I see Europeans dancing tonight.
Yes, it was. It was just like that.
We're not holding two hands like this.
No. As a matter of fact,
Was like this. No?
yes.
Come.
Telling me that you're obsessed, that you're infatuated. Say that you're in love with her.
You didn't say that a month ago. Then you wanted it, and you wanted it for me. Well, now I like it.
You cheat.
I can, but with you, I don't have to.
Now, you watch your tongue, my girl.
I'm not your girl.
Thank you for that.
I am wearing glasses.
And the international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.
Was that what it was like in the old days, Will?
I can't remember. I was drunk most of the time.
Say, Will,
Yeah?
that was the first one I ever killed. Well, I guess they had it coming.
We all have it coming, kid.
To work with the Chejov technique is not just something that you learn as an actor. You learn it as a human being. There is something ennobling in the work. I do not know who I would be if I had never met Michael Chejov. I would look at the world somehow totally differently. I was fortunate enough to meet him when I was 16 years old, and he lives as vividly for me in my memory today as people that I saw 2 weeks ago.
I was lucky. I was lucky to have this fantastic tuition, and more than tuition, the right attitude towards the profession. A noble, self-respecting, conscientious and professional attitude towards acting, so that you don't feel like you're a bit of a whore, just showing off your youth and beauty or whatever, your legs, but you are somebody with a professional luggage, and that's what George gave me. Thank you, George.
Happy birthday!
aside from the atmospheres and the qualities and where to place our centers, George taught us great respect for our profession and for ourselves. My very first night, scene night with George, I was very nervous, and he came back stage and he said, "How are you feeling this evening, Professor?" That's what he called me because he said it was so serious all the time. And I said, "I'm very nervous, Mr. Stanov." And he said, "That is the most egocentric emotion that an actor can have." He said, "The audience does not want to know how you feel. The audience wants to know how St. Joan feels." I said, "Yes, sir."
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself, do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I love the thought that somehow Dirty Harry has his roots in the Moscow Art Theater. I mean, it's completely true. It's completely unrecognized, but there it is.
Oh my God, George, look at this. Dear Mr. George Stanov.
Culver City, California. Dear Mr. Stanov, Hillary and I are pleased to wish you a very happy 90th birthday. We hope you have a joyous celebration and a wonderful year. Sincerely, Bill.
I wonder who it is. Clinton!
Clinton.
He could have been a good actor, huh?
Yeah.
When is breakfast served?
Yeah?
I have a...
Anytime you want.
Oh, really?
Are you hungry?
No, it's just that we, tomorrow...
Do you know John Barry?
Yes.
I'm really quite pleased to do this. And now that the telephone, you better pick it up and say hello. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Barry's resident.
Hey, great, yes.
Yes, may I ask who's calling?
Yeah. My
Bob Hector.
Holy Christ.
You can tell him I'm your new assistant.
Bob, where the hell are you? Oh, well, I thank God I heard from you. I thought the world had ended, and I thought maybe you were dead. Listen, I don't know where you are, but I'm in the midst of doing a big interview about Michael Chejov, and I'm being photographed. So if you could, if I could find out where the hell you are.
And there's the Academy Award nomination came on that black piece of plastic, and the edges were all kind of curled up on it. And my brother said it looks like a death notice, and also looks like it's used. So anyway, forget the Academy Award. That's the Emmy, I guess, and a couple of nominations, and that's pretty much it.
I don't know. Anybody that's silent, Eastwood reminds me of it, oddly enough.
Eastwood studied with Chejov and Stanov when he first came to Hollywood, and they had a huge impact on him.
I didn't know that, you see.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Well,
There you go. That wonderful ability to hold a silence.
We will talk today about radiation.
George, where do you start?
What?
When he says action, you start talking.
Not
That's
yet?
a movie.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm ready to dance.